Good morning, all. It's 11 o'clock, and so this is the weekly session for learning about electrosmog and what you can do about it from Guy Hudson. And today I'm going to talk about quick wins. We had a lot of comments last week that there was so many things that I was talking about that it's a lot to take on in one go. So please, could I do something which prioritized what was the most important and simplest to do. So that's what I intend to do today. And I'll leave it a few minutes while people come on board. So I'm ready to take one question. Has anybody got a question to ask? Okay. Oh, hi, Natasha. Hi, morning.
Do you mind me asking about last week's thing about how you can earth yourself while out and about in the world?
Yes, not at all. I don't mind at all. When you're out and about, how to earth yourself? Well, I drive earthed. So my car is earthed to the ground, and then I'm earthed to my car. So that's one way. What else, when you're out and about, what did you mean?
Well, walking and things, or is it just better to sometimes find a green open space and take your shoes off and socks and just stand on the earth in that way? Or is
yes, you have to be careful because of all the electrosmog around. When you're earthing, you do not want to conduct lots of electrosmog into your body.
Right.
And I had an example of that recently where a client emailed me after she had bought a pair of earthing sandals and decided, she lives in Brighton, and she decided to walk through town to go to the beach. And she felt fine on the beach, because the beach itself is nicely earthed. But walking through town, what you pick up is the electrosmog from all the electrical cables in the pavement, and that is not a good idea. So they're really good. Earthing shoes are a really good idea. They're very good for you, but be careful where you wear them.
All right. Okay.
So. Right, we'll wait till 10 past before we start. Anything else? So have I dealt with that? So as a key theme inside the house, when you earth yourself, you should make sure that you have switched off anything that's giving electrosmog, or you protect yourself with extra layers of earthing, so that you're not attracting the electric fields to yourself. Natasha, so Christian Smith to everyone. How do you protect from EMS from your mobile phone and laptop? Okay, how do you stop radiation from your own phone? Smartphones are really quite complex. There's 6 or 7 transmitters on each smartphone. All the each different technology you talk about, whether it's Bluetooth or Wi-Fi or voice or text, they've all got different transmitters. And so you need to go whichever smartphone you've got, you need to go into settings. And in settings, so you press a little cog-shaped thing with settings, and once you go into settings, and this is Android, you go to connections. And in connections, Wi-Fi needs to be off, Bluetooth needs to be off, NFC needs to be off. NFC is the function which allows you to make payments by putting tapping your phone like you tap a credit card, and that's very important to keep that off. And there's also another function in terms of battery if you go into battery then, so I've got flight mode on, but even so, if I switch that off, let's see, flight mode. Flight mode is the key one. So when in doubt, use flight mode, although that will cut all your wireless connections off. Hello, Christine.
Hi. I've got an Apple phone, so I'm kind of having a look at it at the moment. Obviously, if you put airplane mode on, then you basically can't connect with anybody. You kind of disconnect yourself, which is fine.
Yeah. What you can also do is can you see me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. What you can also do is get one of these adapters.
Okay.
And part of getting rid of Wi-Fi is to use a thing called Ethernet. Those are the computer cables that we used to use. And so what you can do then is into the end of this adapter, you can plug an Ethernet cable.
Okay.
So in the back of your modem, you'll normally see a row of yellow sockets.
Okay.
And you see a row of, so you buy Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
And Ethernet cable comes in different qualities. And it's to do with how long the cable can be and the signal still works. And they're called categories. And so the abbreviation of category is CAT. So you can have a Cat 5, you can have a Cat 5e, you can have a Cat 6, you can have a 6a, you can have a Cat 7, and more recently is even a Cat 8. And the higher the number, the more expensive they are. But what you need to make sure it isn't the most basic. So it shouldn't be a 5 or a 6. It should be a 5e or a 6a or a 7 or an 8. But I suppose the best things to go is for a 5e. They're very common and they're really not expensive. And so you plug one end into the back of your modem and the other end into the bottom end of that. And when it's working, little lights, an orange and a green light flash on the bottom of this, so you know that it's working. And then, sorry, this has just gone off. Anyway, so you plug that in. Now, also the version of this converter that you have should also have this little socket in the side called a power socket. So that's where you plug your phone charger in. So I sit all day, every day at this desk when I'm not out surveying. And this thing is what keeps me going. So I don't fry myself with my own mobile phone. I've got my phone on flight mode, and yet I get all the data. And data allows me to have all my emails and WhatsApp. So I can make voice calls via WhatsApp. And it's really nice and easy to use.
So what you're saying is that it's the Wi-Fi that's so bad.
Yes.
Yeah. It's the Wi-Fi that's the problem.
Yes, it is basically. Okay. So so the EMF's waves come in lots of different frequencies. From nothing, basically, direct current, up to light, which is a million cycles a second. And it's such a high frequency. That's why it took the scientists ages to discover that light was in fact waves, because the waves are so small and travel at the speed of light that without the right equipment, they're very difficult to detect. Anyway, so just below light, you've got heat radiation, and then below heat radiation in frequency, you have what's called microwave radiation. And microwave radiation is generally absorbed by water, And therefore, in nature, there are no microwaves at all. And what that means is that our bodies have no natural resistance to microwaves at all. And in fact, if you're in an office, the biggest absorbers of microwaves are likely to be yourself, because you are mainly water and the pot plant. So that's Wi-Fi. So Wi-Fi is part of microwave radiation, for which there are all kinds of symptoms that we get from this, particularly if you're electrosensitive. And as most of us are on this call. And yeah, so yes, it is the Wi-Fi that's the main problem, but also the radiation, the normal radiation from a phone is not good for us at all. Yes, so if with using this device, sitting at home, you can avoid any, you can go onto flight mode, and so you can avoid any radiation from your phone. And that's really what I strongly recommend that you do. You occasionally switch it on just to pick up your voice messages and to find out who's called you. But even when you do that, you go into settings and go down to settings, and we go to mobile networks, network mode. It says this one says LTE 3G 2G. LTE stands for 4G, long-term evolution. And the interesting part of that is that the evolution of 4G is actually the backbone of 5G. So when you have a 5G mast, it connects to all the other masts using 4G. And so switch on this phone here, I normally run it on, you can have 3G, 2G. So I go 3G, 2G, and now my network says 2G, 3G. And that massively reduces the amount of radiation coming out of your phone to talk to the local masts. So
yeah, I can't actually find that on my phone, but it must be there.
Not necessarily. I think on the latest Apples, it's not there anymore.
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cheeky, isn't it?
Well, everybody wants 4G and 5G, don't they? So anyway, that's that. So yeah, it's the radiation. So it's cell phone radiation, and it's also the Wi-Fi. Now, Wi-Fi comes in two frequencies, and very confusingly, the higher frequency on Wi-Fi is 5 gigahertz. And so it's abbreviation, you see 5 and then a big G and then an H and a Z. And so the upper frequency band for Wi-Fi is 5 gigahertz. Don't confuse that with 5G, they're different concepts. And so what you can do when you do, if you have to use Wi-Fi, you can switch 5G off and go to 2.4G. So it's the old Wi-Fi frequencies, if you have to. The next question was, what is my opinion on using EMF shielding devices? Well, that's a huge subject. Be careful. You've got to have the right device in the right place, or it's not going to work. And in certain circumstances, they can even make it worse. And an example would be phones very rapidly, thousands of times a second, are sensing the strength of the signal from the mast. And if there's a weak signal from the mast, the phone knows that it's going to have a very strong signal to get to the mast. So what it does is it massively ramps up the power. So if you ever see, on the little strength of signal indicator, the 5 little bars, if you see only 1 or 2 bars, it means your phone is radiating very strongly. I have heard it's radiating 1 million times stronger than the other ones, but that's probably a bit exaggerated. It might only be, say, 100,000 times. But there's a massive difference in the amount of radiation from a phone if you're in a weak area. So only use if you must use a phone, try and use it in strong signal areas. And anyway, if you're having to use the phone to talk, and not on wired data like I do at home, then minimize your conversations. I mean, the testing for mobile phones for safety in inverted commas, only lasts 6 minutes. So use that as your reference. Keep your phone calls short. So opinion on using EMF shielding devices. So many of those shielding devices for phones actually weaken the signal going to the phone. So all the phone does is ramp up its power, and you flatten your battery, and any leakage of radiation will make it worse, make you receive more radiation. What would you advise if you're forced to work in an office? This is a very, very critical question. It's a lot of people who are, so there are two definitions of electrosensitive or electrosensitivity. One is we fundamentally resonate, our biology resonates and is affected by electromagnetic pollution, particularly man-made. And the reason is because it's so organized and what's called coherent, and also polarized, and it is able to strongly interact in a very unnatural way with all of our biochemistry. And it has a host of different effects. One of the most talked about and best researched is the balance between calcium and magnesium in our cells. And our mitochondria tend to then get poisoned by excessive calcium. And it means that we get chronic fatigue syndrome and that kind of thing. But anyway, so the second definition of electrosensitivity, as I said, 100% of us are electrosensitive, but it's only some of us who have symptoms that are identified by, associated with the exposure. And that I call electro-hypersensitive, or EHS. So if you have to work in an office, use clothing, shielding clothing, which has got an element of conducting fibers in there, normally silver, or some cases carbon, and wear vest and leggings. In winter, I wear for trains and that kind of thing. I wear a long-sleeved hoodie and long leggings. In the summer, I wear boxer shorts and a t-shirt underneath an ordinary shirt, and works really well. And it allows me to get to London without getting a migraine, which is my major symptom. So wear clothing, try and get your setup earthed properly. And I need to do another meeting on how to set up a workstation so that you don't have problems with an electric field between or a difference in voltage between your hands and your keyboard. And you achieve that with using one of our earthing cables, which is on our website. So you plug that in the back of the thing, of the computer. And so and use a wired keyboard and a wired mouse. So they're all connected, they're all at 0 volts, they're all earthed. And then you earth yourself. And that means that you're earthed, the keyboard and the mouse are all earthed, all connected. And it means there's no field between your hand and the equipment, which means that all the various frequencies, and thanks to dirty electricity, there's a massive range of different frequencies and different strengths. And just some of those are going to interact with you and upset your electrobiology, and they need to be, and so if there's no voltage between them, there's no electric field, there's nothing to drive the connection between this dirty electricity and you, so you're not affected by it. So you're far more then resilient and less likely to be triggered in an electrosensitive way. In offices, also light, if you can get a low temperature light, i.e. more orange and yellow colors rather than intensely blue, and as your desk light, and that will also help. All right, so are there grants available in the UK for shielding clothing, as I am now destitute due to EHS and homeless and cannot afford new clothes? Well, unfortunately, so many of EHS people that I see in a similar financial situation, not as bad as yours, but are in financial straits and can't afford expensive shielding clothing. It would be lovely if there were grants available. There's a leading charity in this field is ES-UK, or Electrosensitivity UK. They're a very helpful bunch of people, including letters from doctors for you to take to doctors, so that they actually accept that there is such a thing as electrosensitivity and don't think that you're have mental problems, instead of actually doing something about the electrosensitivity problem. And so a charity does need to be set up to do this, and I suppose if anybody's interested, do contact me and maybe we can set something up. I have worked in the charity sector before, and have helped set up a charity that which worked well. And so this is one. And so the whole point of this thing being free is that it allows people who are electrosensitive, because I always feel bad about having to charge for my services for people who find it difficult to afford it. And so this is my way of giving something back, so that I don't charge for this particular thing. So it's to allow access to advice to people like yourself. I'm sorry you're destitute. Yeah. So if anybody's got any ideas on how to set, practical ideas on how to set up a charity and raise some money so that we can give EHS people who are got financial problems, so that we can actually get them healthy again. So a practical question here: the cable I showed on my phone, it's called this format of thing. Can you see that it's straight and then it's got rounded ends? That is a USB cable. The big old rectangular USB cable that's been going for years is called a USB-A, and this is called a USB-C. So you need an adapter. So if you go into Amazon or other electronics shops, you need a USB-C adapter, and in this case to Ethernet. So this is Ethernet to USB-C adapter, and if you can buy them just like that. I specify the power cable, which is another USB-C, except that's a socket, whereas of course that is a plug. And you put your power charger in the side of that. And what that does, it keeps this powered, charged up. And you're also, while you're plugged in, it also charges your phone. Otherwise, while you're working with this, your phone runs this device. Your battery in your phone is powering this device, and you're limited in how long you can keep going. So it's hour and a half or whatever, instead of a whole day. And if you're using your phone all day, you're going to run out of battery unless you have that charger thing on the side. So the thing is called, just to repeat, USB-C, which is one of those, to Ethernet, which is one of those adapter. And there are lots of them. And some of them are really, but don't buy the cheapest, it would be my advice. Some of them really don't work because there are so many made coming over from China. And yeah, a well-recommended one. Okay, so Natasha Etheridge, to everyone, got diagnosed as, has helped in my workplace as under the Disability Act of 2010. They have to do reasonable adjustment. So Natasha, did you have to get the sympathetic? How did you achieve that?
Well, I met somebody in a group of friends who actually was diagnosed recently by a consultant neurologist at the Spire Hospital in Norwich. So I had been talking to my doctor for ages about it, but they wouldn't take it on board. And then because I had found that when I was in the workplace, my toes were starting to get inflamed, obviously. And when I went into work, they weren't. And by 20 minutes later, they were, and making me unbearable to walk on. Besides all the other tingling and all the other things that EHS brings.
Yeah.
I decided to get diagnosed if I could. So I went and saw this chap. He is private, but as a friend said, it's the most expensive but valuable piece of paper you're ever going to have. And in the process, I've been diagnosed as that about 2 months ago. I also wrote a letter to my workplace confirming, saying this is what's happening to me. What can I do about it? You know, so they are at the process of interviewing me. I've had 2 welfare meetings with area managers and a people advisor. I've had a talk with an occupational advisor, health advisor, and now I'm going to talk with a doctor of the company. Their point of view, the reasonable adjustments they have made is I work in a shop, so it's harder to even kind of manage than it is in an office, where you could move to another part of another office if it was, you know, near a mast or whatever. Or you're near the router, you could be moved away from the router into another office. You possibly could get earthing. I don't know, you know, you can talk to you about reasonable adjustments. They could get you the earthing mat, the telephone, whoever it was who works in the office, they could get an earthing mat from their work because that'd be classed as reasonable adjustment. Okay. Because, you know, you can negotiate with them about things that would help you, depending on your symptoms. But I think I fall under the category of EHS. So they are talking about, I was a sandwich maker, so they took me out of prep because it's near an office where there's a router, lots of cabinets, my feet were burning, my whole system was feeling depressed.
Right, yeah, I bet.
They moved me to the front of the shop, and now they're talking about putting me on shifts where there's less people in the shop with their phones, contactless payments, or the apparatus working full time. So either very early in the morning when there's a limited amount of customers, or late afternoon. But from a practical point of view, they haven't changed the Wi-Fi, they haven't checked out the wiring, they haven't done any EMF survey. So I will try it. But at the present moment, my doctor, because of the diagnosis, said I've got something to work on. So I'm on a medical sick note for a month and things have settled down because I'm out of that environment. But I'm aware of you know, we'll see how it pans out really from there. So the Diagnosis Act was quite important, really. Otherwise, they wouldn't take me seriously. There you are. So if you go and save up the money, go and get diagnosed, because I don't know if anybody else is doing it.
Okay.
It's a
Yeah.
helpful tool, and it might help the person who's homeless and destitute, though it's not great. You're still, even if you know you're ES, you're classed as a disabled person because it's disabled you. So I would check out your disability rights in a very small way and hope that somebody will help you to, or charities will help you to get off that homeless state where you are. I just wonder which part of the country you might be in, where I can kind of help where I am. Not necessarily to home you, but to help you if you're on the street somewhere. Anyway, I think we've all got to stick together and help each other.
Yes. The person I can't is the person who
Is it
is
user one?
Sorry?
I think it was user one, wasn't it?
Yeah, okay. So is user one still there? Paul, is user one still there?
Looking, have a yes.
Can you unmute? Can you unmute them?
Yeah, they should be able to unmute
Is that
themselves.
unmuted now? Can you hear
Yeah.
me now?
Yeah, I can hear
there we
you
are.
now.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening. It's going on and off my video, but I've got very slow signal. So
Okay.
yeah, I at the moment I'm in someone's garden in South Wales, so I'm all right for a few weeks here. Very low signal in the area, none at all in the garden. I've sort of run out of, I've had to leave Cardiff. I stayed in Cardiff as long as I could, fighting the council and trying to work with the government, and everything goes round in circles. Basically, everyone blames each other, says that we're all waiting for a survey that will happen one day with the World Health Organization. That's my council's approach. Different councils do everything. I'm working with a team of people who are trying to stop the masks going up in the first place. So if anyone's interested, we can do with more people there. That's how we've been trying to approach it. I've tried with all the different bodies in government. They've admitted that actually they've done nothing for us. Basically, they didn't consider us people with ES before they did the most recent rollout. I don't really know what to do anymore, to be put fair. I don't even know how to get out of the country because I'm that severe now. I had a very severe electrical shock at 15 for about 4 minutes, and I used a low mobile phone signal extensively 15 years ago, 3G, and I was also overdosed with tetanus vaccine, so vastly overdosed as a child. So I don't know. I've been detoxing for 3 years now with Cling Heart.
Right. Yeah.
I've been using ART. I test everything I do. I test everything I take, but it's getting to a point. Well, I left Cardiff because I knew it was going to kill me if I stayed much longer. My organs were failing, you know, and I could get a dentist to the home, but that was it. There's no other medical thing that can come to your home. They managed to work the dentists out, but they can't even do blood tests in your home now because you've got to have a mobile phone on in the house, and I can't do that. So there's a lot of, I think sorry, I'm rambling on now, but I'm just think a charity is maybe a big way forward, because that would raise awareness in the general population if there was a charity to refer people to, you know.
I don't know whether we'd be able to call it a charity, because you'd have to go under the Charities Commission, and the Charities Commission are likely to reject the basis of the charity.
Really? Yeah. Like they do a lot of I've noticed with government, a lot of the petitions that go through get rejected, saying they already know it's safe, you know, so there's no need to do safety I've been noticing that over the last year, quite
Yeah.
a few being rejected.
Yes, they will. They will. So we've got a new message here.
I'm on there, go.
Sorry. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you for your input. So maybe something can come out of this. There is not enough help for electrosensitive people who are income is restricted because of their electrosensitivity.
Could I just say, I've been speaking to someone he's military based, and he says there is something, but I'm trying to find out what it is. We don't yet know whether it's through government or through the NHS. I think it might be through the NHS. They have got the facilities, but we've got to find out which department. So I will forward that information to you. If I lose contact, I'll manage to get that out to you if I find out where this PPE is available, which department. It's sort of being hidden a bit, I think.
Okay. Right. Can we go on to the? It's okay to go on to the next subject. So I've got a chat here and saying that there's a device called a POM shield, and I happen to have been sent a sample one, which is what I use as my mouse mat. There's this device here, very nicely made with a nice silver shielded lining, and there's an aerial up on my windowsill there. And what it's supposed to do is to allow you to put a mobile phone into this thing, which is shaped like a book. Put your mobile phone in that, and then it uses the remote aerial. So it means that you set up the call, then you put it in the POM shield. But unfortunately, I found that it leaks. It leaks a bit too much. You can't expect the shielding to work 100%. No shielding works. They all leak a bit. And in this particular case, there's extra work still to do in the shielding from the POM people. And I've opened up. Funnily enough, I had a conversation. I had an email this morning from them, asking how we could collaborate, and I'm very happy to do that because I think it's a great device, particularly for use in cars. I think because if you've got a aerial, you can stick on the roof, and you can stop your mobile thing radiating, and using a mobile in a car is particularly bad for us electrosensitives. I really do suffer with that. Because you're in a partial Faraday cage. Okay, a lot of radiation gets through the windows, but not all the roof and the doors and the floor and everything. So it's a weak signal in the car, and also it reflects back off all those metal things. So you've got two things, which means that the signal, the exposure that you're getting from your phone once you're in a car is typically far worse than if you're in an unrestricted space. Okay, so there's ES UK, and yeah, they're a good lot of people. I've worked extensively with Michael, who's the chair, in working on a thing called IGNIA, which is International Guidelines for Non-Ionizing Radiation, so that they're a biologically based set of standards to use in a practical environment. So that if it's your own home or the doctor's surgery or whatever waiting room, or hotel or hospital or hotel rooms, you can surveyors like me can survey to IGNIA standards, and could certify it. And Michael has written it up has written all the documents up. So I recommend that. IGNIR.org. I really like the idea of starting some sort of group for people who are experiencing high, is that electrosmog or electrosensitivity? I'm not quite sure ES stands for. Yes, so Claire Robertson to everyone. An alternative to charity is to incorporate as a not-for-profit private company limited by guarantee. You can run it on a not-for-profit basis, and I'm quite sure what I've got some. Anyway, and don't have to answer to the Charity Commission. Lots of environmental NGOs have this structure. Yes, so you call it an NGO, not a charity. And the Charity Commission is rather. I absolutely agree with that last comment. That's really good. In Patricia, I was interested in what you use to detox. Could you say a bit more about that to us? That what that helped. So antioxidants of all kind. You really need to talk to one of Klinghart's ART people would be good, if you can find one and if you can afford one. they're not cheap. So I've worked with a very good Klinghart practitioner on ART. ART is fascinating. There was a laboratory experiment done 150 years ago where they left, so they were looking at living tissue under the microscope, and on one of them they left a bit of nerve tissue connected to the tissue they were looking at, whatever it might have been, lung tissue or liver tissue or whatever. They left some nerve, and they found that the tissue with the nerve attached lived far longer, so that the nerve was still giving out signals to keep the tissue alive longer. And on that basis, so ART stands for autonomic, which is part of our nervous system response testing to see how good the autonomic system, which maintains our life in all the different areas of the body, is working there. Anyway, so the detox, in terms of supplements, just from a personal point of view, I've got no medical training, so I can't give advice that way. But what I can say from a personal point of view, what works is magnesium. Magnesium. So the slightly metallic taste in Lucozade is magnesium, and that's what it tastes like. And magnesium citrate. So it needs to be, in order, if you go to Holland and Barrett, the cheapest pills are all magnesium oxide, and they don't work at all. So it is a mineral that you dig out of the ground in huge quantities, and it's just dirt cheap. But what you do need is something that your body can absorb, so that it's got some organic chemical on the end of it. So it's citrate, malate, gluconate, all those kind of different ones you need to have. And the dosage recommended is really quite high. What it is, what I take is about a gram a day, and it makes a big difference to my electro sensitivity. So ES, Christian Smith said it's electrosensitivity. Yes, international guidelines on non-ionizing radiation, there's that. There's on magnesium, I take something called Mag 365. It's a great big jar, and it lasts for ages, and it costs, I don't know, about 20 quid, I think. But the surprising thing is that you need to mix it in really warm water. If you put it in cold water, it doesn't react. Warm water. Melatonin, does it? I don't know that. Okay. The next thing is it's one thing to take your phone and go into settings and switch everything on and off. We can do further on that later, actually. About the practicality. I'd like to get a consensus on the practicality of, for instance, switching data on and off. You should have data switched off. You should be on 3G. even, you know, assume that you have to use the phone for work or something. What I'd like to talk about next is the next set. When I do surveys, it's kind of like, get rid of this Wi-Fi, and they say, well, I can't do that Wi-Fi. You know, my whole life revolves around Wi-Fi. Well, okay, we can look at what you use Wi-Fi for, and how we use cables to replace the microwave Wi-Fi signals, and also how to switch everything off. Switching off the router is really in some cases quite difficult, and we can talk about that for a few minutes. So I've just got a client at the moment who has realized strongly that he's got autoimmune disease, and he is being recommended by his doctor to get rid of all electrosmog. And there's some recent papers which show that was it 90%? I think I read this morning, 90% of people with autoimmune disease improve with cleaning up their electrosmog. 90%, not the normal 3% that we talk about being electrosensitive, but of course it might be 90% of that 3% have got the autoimmune, but I mean autoimmune is far more common than that. So anyway, we've got I would like to talk about how people use Wi-Fi, and with specific instances, how we get around that, and how we get people continuing to live their lives, working and communicate with their friends and relations and that, but without Wi-Fi in the air everywhere. And then there's also about shielding neighbors' Wi-Fi as well. So have I got any comments on that? Would you like to do that? Okay, Claire Robinson says yes, good. That's fine. Oh, we have cordless phones. Well, that's an easy one. Yeah, you chuck them in the round file, otherwise known as the rubbish bin. You can always try selling them at car boot sales, I suppose. But I mean, I don't know that anybody wants them. They're very easy to get rid of. So the question is, what do you replace them with? That's the only question with those. You replace them with a plug-in old-fashioned phone with a curly whirly wire like that. That's what you need to use. And of course, everybody's thrown them away or got rid of them. So if you do go to a car boot sale, you'll probably pick up one for £1. But it costs you more than that to get to the car boot sale. So the BT sell this thing, which are pretty horrible to use, but they work. They're very cheap. I think they cost £10 or something. So that's the basic answer. The more sophisticated answer that costs, I don't know if I've got enough wire to show you. Can't quite see it, but this is my desk phone. Okay, so it's an ordinary business desk phone where it's easy to store numbers in and things like that, and that works pretty well. And so that I can use my headset. Just untangle some wires here. So this is what we call our professional headset. So it's that plugs into my desk phone, which is called the BT Converse 2300, I think. I only mention that because I know that this thing plugs in, and this has got an air tube. So the loudspeaker and the microphone are in here. And these are just air tubes which go A to the microphone and B to the earpiece. And I find I can use this for many, many hours, and I don't get brain fog. And so the stuff on our website we've all used and tried, and in some cases for many, many years. And So it's pretty reliable stuff. Okay. MK, do air tubes work well for me? Yes, indeed. We've got on our website, we've got black ones, white ones, and stereo, and mono and stereo. You just for the option, and they are sort of medium price. They don't last forever because you end up wearing them out and breaking the wires in them. So if you use them carefully, they'll last a couple of years. If you use them aggressively, they get tangled in your bag, and well, if you yank them, they'll last only a short time. But yes, they work. Air tubes work brilliantly. I was on the train yesterday, and I had to use my phone to meet people. So I was able to put the phone well away from me and the website. So and also the thing about, you can use the speaker phone, so you can use them like this. But the problem is, if there's any background radiation, if background sound, like on the train or any public place where there's wind or whatever else, you can't use them, and your conversation isn't private at all. Whereas you can, with an air tube headset, you just stick it in your ear, and it works. And also, I came across a really pretty, flashy headset. When I was thinking, well, ours are a bit boring looking. It wouldn't be nice to have a pretty one. But I tried it, and it was just hopeless. It was too quiet, and I couldn't hear it. My hearing isn't very good, and I couldn't hear a thing on it. Anyway, so ours work well enough. I mean, yes, the quality isn't quite as good as some of the other ones because it's down a tube, but it works well enough and allows me to use that. So we're actually coming towards the end of it. So
user one has a hand raised.
Sorry?
User one has a hand raised.
Me too.
Okay, so let's quick one from user one.
They'll have to unmute.
So, okay, yeah, hello, user one.
Hiya. All I wanted to know was, there's a film that you can put on windows, a clear film, to stop the radiation coming into the house.
Yes.
Do you know the film I mean? I can't remember the name.
We do a version of it. There are many different versions. I think they're all made by the same company in France.
Yes, that's it. Is it, because I've got some of that film, but do you think that would make the car safe for me around a 5G mast? Because I'm very worried about the 5G, from what the reactions I've had. I mean, I wouldn't drive, obviously, but I want to be able to approach one safely at some point, and I was wondering about using that screen on the windows.
Okay, I have a lot to say about that, and I don't have time to cover it right now. Okay. Are you going to be here next week?
Yes, so hopefully, yeah, definitely. I think next week, maybe not the week after. I'm not sure yet. But
okay, let's deal with a specific question next week, and thank you for your question. Okay, yeah. So, and also we can start talking about cell masts next week as well in the questions section. Okay, and the big, I know it's a huge subject, especially if you start adding in 5G. It's endless. But anyway, let's deal with that next week. And thank you all so much for being here. It's been a great pleasure to be working with you, and hopefully some good things are going to come out of it. Thank you all. I can't hear you, but thank you all very much anyway. Okay, bye now.
Bye.